Uh, Good morning, and for all of you that I can see the faces, thank you. It makes such a difference talking to faces. I was talking earlier than the little names or icons. And then what it helps too is if you just, every once in a while, just nod your head like, yeah, you're saying it really good. Just makes me feel a little bit better. But good morning and welcome to the community care meeting. Let's call the meeting to order. My name is Michelle Jameson with US Vets, and I am the co-chair of the committee along with Stephanie Smith from Native American Connections. So we will start with the introductions, and I will call each community member's name and ask you to introduce yourself and your organization. So we'll start with Stephanie. She's here somewhere.
With me?
I'm here. I'm trying to get in.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I'm Stephanie Smith from Native American Connections.
Okay. And then I will call names, and please just state the organization that you work with and introduce yourself. So Adrian Clark. Adrian, no. Okay. Stephanie Crum.
Hello, good morning. This is Stephanie Crum, and I'm with the Human Services Campus.
Morning, Stephanie.
Good morning.
Kathy Donaki. See her, Kathy. I think she's connecting to the audio now.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And what organization, Kathy, are you with?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
In the organization you're with?
Newly.
Newly. Okay, thank you. And Alfred Edwards?
Good morning, everyone. Alfred Edwards. I'm a homes coordinator with AZDEF.
Good morning, Alfred. Dolores Ernst?
Good morning, everybody. You'll see me on the Zoom as DC. I'm with Phoenix Fire Crisis Response, and that's my dog, Charlotte, in the background barking.
Good morning to both of you. And Trisha Gibson?
Hello, Trisha Gibson with ABC Housing.
Good morning. Wendy Johnson?
Hi, Wendy Johnson, Justice Center.
Hi, Wendy. And Anne-Marie Johnston?
Good morning, Anne-Marie Johnston with Community Bridges.
Morning, Anne-Marie. Laura Magruder?
Good morning, Laura Magruder with Maggie's Place.
And Jennifer Page?
Morning, this is Jennifer from Mercy Care.
Good morning. And Aaron Rain?
Aaron Rain from the city of Mesa.
Nikki Ramirez? Okay, Nikki Ramirez? Okay, she might be with us this morning. Tama Riley? Okay. Ty Rosensteel? Okay, Chayla Schuster? Okay, Sarah Sims.
Good morning, Sarah Sims, Phoenix Elementary School District.
Yay. Okay, I was getting on a bad roll there for a minute, so yay.
I'm here.
Laura Scott Nikki.
Laura Scott Nikki, Save the Family, present.
Hi, Laura. And Steven Stivers.
Daniel Davis, proxy for Steven Stivers, UMOM.
Okay, hi, Daniel. And Joanne Thornton.
Morning, everybody. Joanne Thornton, Salvation Army.
And Craig Tripkin.
Craig Tripkin, Central Arizona Shelter Services.
Good morning, Craig. All right, we'd also like to introduce himself, the COC staff, so Steve Dudasek.
Morning, everyone. This is Steve Dudasek with the COC /MAG.
And Sarah Kent.
Good morning, everybody. Sarah Kent is here.
And Julie Montoya.
Good morning, everyone. Julie Montoya.
And is Tina Lopez? Oh, there you are. Hi, Tina.
Hi, how are you? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And Michelle, we have another person from MAG COC joining today. Kara, are you on the line?
I am. Good morning,
Okay.
everybody.
Hi, Kara.
Hi.
Is there anyone else on the call that would like to introduce themselves?
This is Nikki Ramirez with Chicanos per La Causa.
Hi, Nikki.
Good morning.
I'm just writing that down. So, okay. So for all participants, please mute your phone or your computer when you're not speaking, and please do not put your phone on hold. We also ask that you identify yourself when speaking, and we will be reminding people to do that throughout the meeting, as we have been advised that this is important for open meeting law. And one final housekeeping item, that all votes will be roll call votes. So Stephanie or I will be doing roll call after a motion is made. So now we will move on to Stephanie for call to the audience. Stephanie?
Hi, Stephanie, I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
I should know better by now. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Michelle. And Steve. Please note that members of the public were given an opportunity to submit written comments relating to this meeting to azmag.gov/comment within 1 hour of the posted start time for the meeting. Any written comments submitted will be included in the meeting record. Were there any comments posted, Steve?
No comments were posted.
All right. Thank you. We will move on to Michelle for approval of the September minutes.
Okay, so if we could have, shoot, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the date on September. When was September? What was the date?
9th, I think.
The September 9th. I'm looking for approval of the September 9th meeting minutes.
I move to approve the minutes for September 9th.
I second. Wendy Johnson seconds.
Okay, and who was first? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Laura Skotnicki.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we'll just do a roll call. Adrian Clark, or I don't think Adrian's on. Let's see, John. Okay, Stephanie Crum.
Aye.
Kathy Denofi. I know she was on. Kathy Denofi.
Sorry, aye.
Okay, thank you. Alfred Edwards.
Aye.
Dolores Ernst.
Aye.
Trisha Gibson.
Aye.
Wendy Johnson.
Aye.
Anne Marie Johnston.
Aye.
Laura Magruder.
Aye.
Jennifer Page.
Aye.
Aaron Rain.
Aye.
Tamara Riley. Oh, nope, sorry, they weren't there. Sarah Sims.
I have to abstain. I wasn't in attendance for that meeting.
Okay. Laura Skotnicki.
Approve.
Stephen Stivers.
Aye.
Joanne Thornton.
Aye.
And Craig Tripkin. And Craig, oh, you're on mute, but I said yes. I see a yes. Okay. He is a good too. Thank you. Okay. And now what we will do is we'll move to the motion passes, so we'll move to the next agenda item, moving the Continuum of Care committee to bi-monthly. And we'll talk with Stephanie on that.
All right. As you know, the COC committee meetings have been scheduled monthly. We would like to move these to bi-monthly with the option to call a meeting in an off month if necessary. Are there any comments from the committee on this? As a reminder, please identify yourself before speaking.
Can I just ask why we want to move to twice a month? That seems a little excessive.
I'm sorry, Laura, it was.
Every other month.
Every other month. Great, thank you.
Yes.
Let me just apologize for saying bi-monthly in the agenda. I've always thought that was every other month, Laura, but I want to apologize for that. It means every other month.
Not that I don't enjoy seeing everybody, but I have a lot of meetings, so I just want to make sure.
This is Wendy Johnson. We get a lot of information through these meetings, and there's some ongoing discussions that take place here that are super helpful. Will we then use subcommittees to get some things done, or what will be the procedure for if something comes up? Boy, am I stuttery today. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. Steve, jump in. Oh,
yeah.
Or go for it.
I'm sorry, Stephanie. If you have a response, you could go.
No, go for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Wendy. The thought is that moving forward with the COC committee, in our governance structure, the meetings were supposed to be every other month. And one of the things we're trying to do throughout the COC, particularly with high-level meetings such as the committee and the board, is to make them impactful, where these meetings are not, it's great to get together and exchange information, but we want to try to make it more impactful, where these meetings are really about actionable steps. And within this recommendation that we're making, we have the option, if there's a lot of stuff going on in a particular month that's an off month, we could call a committee meeting, on an off month. So I think, by formally having them every other month with the option to call them when needed, I think would be more impactful for this group. I hope that answers your question, which would be, yes, anytime there's input needed or a major discussion needs to happen with the leaders amongst this group, we could certainly put together a meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a quick comment, and I presume I'm in a minority on this one, and maybe it's because my schedule is so easy, but I say that sarcastically. But I really do find that the interaction and staying up to speed with what the Continuum's doing, if we're going to have input opportunities with the board, which meets monthly, these meetings kind of trigger thought processes for me that are at least important to me, and I guess I'd rather meet monthly, and I'll just say it simply. And I know that means more work for everybody, and so my guess is I'm semi alone on this one, but I just wanted to say that.
This is Nikki Ramirez with Chicanos per la Causa. I would agree with Craig. I also believe that with COVID-19 and the possible second wave and the many things that could be challenging our community as things shift very quickly, we want to be positioned to respond timely. And decreasing the amount of meetings may hinder that ability.
Yeah, this is Wendy again. I think that was the genesis of my question about the sub work, because we've got evictions coming at the end of December. We've got just financial woes coming for our community because of COVID-19. And I feel like if we're going to be a review committee that we just look at things that other people are doing and we vote on it, then every two months is fine. But if we're going to be responsive and actionable, I agree with Craig, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I apologize. I agree with both of you that more right now makes more sense for me.
It's actually really
yeah. I'll jump in real quick. Joanne Thornton, Salvation Army. I position, at least my thoughts with MAG staff. I think when meeting month to month, to be quite honest, some of the topics on the agenda get a little dry, and it leads to a little bit of inertia. And if we're going to be successful as a committee, I think that, looking at ways in which we can create a more robust agenda that positions our thoughts and our insight to help bring or deliver concepts to the board will be more productive. I understand that we're in the age of COVID and we have the eviction moratorium expiring at the end of the month. But I think that if we really want to examine ways to make the board more efficient, sometimes it's trimming the fat a bit. And in reference to the fat, I think that some of the agenda items in which we will talk about today or even have gone over in the past can be a little dry. And I think that if we can allow time to be the best, supplier of good information for us to be equipped to make decisions to pass along to the board, I think that we really got to look at or examine how we can leverage time to help us be more productive.
This is Michelle. I really appreciate the dialogue, and it's a very good dialogue. And I agree actually with everybody what people are saying. And it's awesome that people want the meetings every month, and that to think that usually people don't want that extra meeting. But with what Joanne has said is sometimes it does get dry. And I think that's really important, is like everybody on this committee to really, at the end of the meeting, what are we going to talk about at that next meeting? What's important to the community is, as everybody on this committee has a voice. And so to take that and to bring up suggestions and what is it that we want to work at and address as a group, and just to have that open dialogue. I know that with COVID, it has challenges, and it's so much easier to meet in person and just to have that interaction with people, get to know people, versus with this Zoom. And I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. But even as a co-chair, it's so nice to see faces. I was noticing, like, when Craig was he was on mute, but he had a smile. He was like, yes. I mean, that was really nice. That was interaction that we have. And so as a committee, I feel like we need to really work on getting more robust information out there, and work on, building that relationship and building that cohesiveness as a committee and during our Zoom ages. That's my comment.
If I could add something, I understand the need for a robust discussion, and maybe as a committee, and this is kind of maybe as a committee, we could do a better job of forwarding or making our own agenda as to what we think needs to be addressed. And because I understand it all falls on you, Michelle and Steve and others, to sort of, what do we want to talk about? What are we doing? And maybe the committee can be more active in creating a robust discussion points, even if there's not an action at the end of it. This is a fast moving world in homelessness right now, and COVID is demonstrating that. And so are, for example, the city of Phoenix has a homeless plan. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts right now. And anyway, I'm sorry, I'm kind of beating this to death, but I guess there may be a way for us to figure out how to create a more robust discussion, as opposed to just kind of sitting and accepting committee reports, which is sort of what I feel like I do sometimes. And if I was meeting more often, because sometimes I have an idea and I say that'd be good to discuss, but by the time we meet, that idea is usually faded from my brain, not because it was unimportant, but because I'm old. So anyway.
Hi, this is Stephanie with HSC, and I think I echo what Nikki, Craig, and Joanne and everybody is saying. I think that we should step up and take a little bit more control of our agenda, maybe really as the committee members develop it. I think that would be a nice step. And I agree that right now during COVID, I don't think meeting less is a good idea. I think we need to at least stay on pace, but maybe revisit once we're past all of this next year, maybe revisit, going to every other month. But I agree with you. I think we need to continue to meet, but I think we need to focus a little bit more, especially with the moratoriums being lifted. And I think we really need to start, for lack of a better word, pre-gaming that now and getting our resources and figuring out, you know, what we're going to do as a continuum.
Hi, this is Michelle, and I agree that the dialogue is very impactful right now. I think this is probably one of the best dialogues that we've had for a while. And you know, when you're looking at the committee members and who they represent, there's a reason why that we have healthcare. There's a reason we have education. There's a reason we have all the different components, and each and every one of you on here brings that piece. And so yes, to bring up and to talk. And so like at the end of the agenda, when we're always like, what should we bring up next time? What's important? Because you know, a few would just have a few things, but if everybody are the eyes and the ears of the community, and to bring up and say, hey, this is what's going on. Let's talk about this, let's talk about that. And that's where we're going to bring about change. And so I love that. And I do feel that the Zoom and everybody on here, it's just, I remember back in the old days when we go to the MAG office or the COC, it was like you'd be able to see people, how are you doing? And you have that personal interaction. And we don't have that. And so now it's like we have little, I kind of, this is going to age me a little bit, but the Brady Bunch down that you're looking at all the pictures. And that's what we have. And so we have to really work together to chime in, to talk and to work as a community, and knowing that everybody has an important viewpoint and it's very impactful.
I think.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Steve. It's Wendy again. Sorry, can't shut me up today. The question I have, when I came on the board, this is my first year, so I'm still learning. I expected to have actionable work to do on this board. And thus far, it's been a lot of listening to presentations of things that are already done and going, yeah, we can live with that, or yeah, we can't. I guess I would love to have our purpose clarified and what our roles can be influencing the greater board or the community. I love the networking of this, and that is in the description. And I'm not a government person, so I don't understand how slowly things go, but there is so much that is out there that is maybe not true, maybe it is biased or whatever, that we're getting communication from newspapers and from media that may not be, none of us know what to do with right now. Like some councilmen who want to just pick up and move HSC. You know, those things are happening and they're real and they're taking away from what we're doing on the day-to-day. So, you know, what is our purpose? What are we going to accomplish as a board? And what is our scope of responsibility would be really good for me. Because otherwise I'm just going to come in here and stir the pot every month. And I don't want to do that. So, I mean, I do if it has an outcome, but I don't want to be, you know, the squeaky wheel.
I'm sorry, Michelle, could I just make a comment? All right. Yeah, Wendy, I hear you 100%, you know, from, you know, the COC MAG, what we're doing with our team is, I think this conversation, first of all, it's morphing into the next agenda item, which is great. I mean, there seems to be a lot of great conversation today. But one thing we do want to do, like I said at the outset, we want to make all of our committees, well, especially this committee, I mean, it's the highest level committee we have. We have two open meetings. We have the board and we have the COC committee. So you are the leaders of you know, formulating the direction and the scope of our work moving forward. So the idea is that these meetings become impactful, where there are actionable ideas exchanged. There are things that could be brought up to the board coming out of the committee. And, you know, part of this suggestion today is just, you know, you're all leaders. We're in meetings, you know, we could be in meetings every day, you know, 24/7 if we wanted to. We just wanted to make this meeting important. When you're at the meeting, it's an important meeting. And I understand, to Michelle's point, you know, information exchange, networking. If that's important to this group as well, then yes, we should continue monthly meetings. But on the other side of things, for impactful actions, I really feel from the MAG perspective that, every other month might be a good thing. And again, it's your committee. I just wanted to give you our perspective as to why we even put this on the agenda today. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Shayla Schuster from Community Solutions. I apologize for being late, and I know I missed the very first part of this discussion, but I did look at the agenda and I was aware that this was going to be on there, and I do have a little bit of a comment, and it might have been brought up already, so I apologize. But I think one of the things, and Wendy just mentioned the board and the greater board and stuff like that, but I think one of the other things is that a lot of the work that I thought the committee was supposed to do is to help inform policies on the board. And if the board's going to meet monthly, then it seems like our agenda should look and mirror a lot of the things that are happening with the board level so that we can give our feedback and our responses to that. And I wonder where and how that looks with what we're doing with the committee.
I'd like to offer just one suggestion in line with some of the comments in regard to increasing participation on influencing the agenda items. And so maybe that could be in the form of a survey where there are certain questions posed to the committee members in advance of a meeting. If feedback isn't being given during the meeting itself of what's changing in the different sectors in which we have representation on the committee and how that should be discussed and influence decision making. So maybe the questions could be posed in advance of what topics or trends are seeing, and feedback can be solicited and then put together prior to the agendas being sent out to make them more robust and interactive while not actually eliminating the frequency of the meeting itself.
Joanne with Salvation Army, just to kind of drift on those coattails presented by Nikki and Chayla, I think it's important also that there's a bit of not necessarily diffusion. Obviously, we have to stay in our lanes from a committee standpoint. The board has its work to do from a board level. But at the end of the day, I think that it is important to recognize that the board in some capacity should influence the trajectory of the committee. So if there's things in which the board are reviewing or, kind of struggling to identify as points of interest, that should be kicked back down to the boards or to the committee so that we can do some of the drudge work that would be necessary to really push an initiative forward. So, when Chayla mentions that, it's important to really look at the work of the committee, or Nikki mentioning surveys and soliciting or gathering feedback. I think that that's all important, but I think also that another piece that's equally important is the ability to really look at some of those agenda items that the board is struggling with, to have us as practitioners or just service providers putting our insight and energy on those topics to help push it forward.
Hi all. Daniel Davis.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Proxy for Stephen at UMOM. As a total newbie here, this is like my 5th meeting, I think. I just kind of want to give some reflective statements that I'm hearing from everybody, which is obviously trimming some of the fat of maybe more dull agenda items would be a wise first step forward. But it sounds like more people are reinvigorated now to participate in the conversation or to have more strategic conversation in this meeting instead of just updates, because a lot of the updates are really nice and they're useful. But it sounds like even when Wendy was saying the value of having these updates, it sounds like, oh, that's a good catalyst for the conversation we should be having here. Obviously, there's some with like video conferencing in general creates more dull conversations. It's kind of the nature of the beast, but I want to just echo Nikki's point that maybe we can find new ways to engage the committee members to come up with and to participate in the conversation. And a lot of that is done beforehand with the agenda, but maybe we can try relaunching, doing it every month and see if we can get some traction here, and then maybe revisit it in a few months to see if we want to go back to Steve's suggestion here with doing bi-monthly.
Yeah, this is Aaron Rain, City of Mesa. Just to dovetail in with that, I think in general, the video conference meetings aren't near as much dialogue. This is the most dialogue I've seen back and forth on a topic in any Zoom meeting I've been on since March. The in-person meetings are always so much more meaningful because there's the connection. There always seem to be more meaningful dialogue and work being done. And I think it kind of just is the nature of these telemeetings. That being said, I do like the point that the points that have been made on maybe doing a little in between works, like with the surveys, and just we're in a new world. Are we ever going to go back to all sitting in the same room? Maybe not. So I think we kind of need to rethink how we, as a committee, progress and support the board and the mission.
Yeah, I agree, and this is a great dialogue, and again, I want to re-emphasize that at the end of the meetings, it's like the request for future agenda items, and so it's so important to have a voice from each and every one of you because you represent a piece of the community that we're working to improve. So this is a great dialogue and going forward. So, and I also think of touching with the board, and we'll have look at the board's point of view and helping them and support them. So it's really yay, good conversation.
This is Stephanie from NAC. One thing that we've done in the past, and I'm thinking for the people who really like these meetings for information sharing, in the past MAG had sent out weekly emails as a kind of a recap of any subcommittees or work groups that had met, any agency announcements that were submitted throughout the week, and every Friday afternoon that email would get sent out. And I know I personally really liked that. I felt like I was able to stay up to date with information that way. So for information sharing, maybe that could be a possibility to bring that back. I know that's worked for Steve and his team.
Hi, this is Steve from MAG. Thanks a lot, Stephanie, for putting more work. No, we could we could certainly revive that. I will say when I came on board, it got a little stale. Posting it on the website. We used to do like a weekly kind of report. We could talk. Maybe this group could. Maybe not today, give us an idea. What would you want? Would you want just a general email sent out, or should we post something on the web in form of a resource, paper? But we could definitely revive that, whatever form that the community feels it should take.
I think, Steve, if maybe a suggestion would be, could we look at what they had posted in the past and what they did in the past was reputable and was very informative. I don't remember the pieces were on it, but I know it was the meetings, what happened in the meetings and things like this. And I think that, there's been a lot of change and then with these, online meetings or virtual meetings, I think a lot of information is really just getting passed or over. We're not aware of all the information. So I think that's a very, I probably didn't answer your question. I'm not sure but it was just meetings and updates and just relevant things that happened during the week. And I forgot about that, but that was really important piece. So.
Could that be a future agenda item that if we decide to meet next month, that people come with ideas of what they would like to see in those emails?
Yeah, I'd like to say another thing that I think is missing is audience participation. And I understand like the Zoom format, but I do think that we're missing a voice of people that are not on the committee right now. So I wonder, both what's happening with MAG and like maybe what other people want to share or how we might be able to incorporate some of their voices, because I really feel like it's not, we're becoming an echo chamber if we don't have the voice of other people in our community that want to to us or talk about things.
Thanks, Shayla. I think Wendy jumped in too with something.
Well, I was just did I turn my mic back off? No. One of the rules of thumb that I've always used for meetings, if it's not actionable and it's just information, put it in writing, read it ahead of time, and then, if it needs a vote, discussion, whatever. But I think we could really use our time more productively in terms of crisis, being aware of crisis response, of outcomes. The Move On campaign has me concerned. I'd love to see some data from that. There's some things we've already seen that we need an update on. I will happily compose a list of ideas to share with the group, only because that's where I get my information. So I want to know how to do this better. So thanks. I'm going to stop now.
Thank you, Wendy, for your feedback. I appreciate it. This is Stephanie from HSC.
All right, are there any other thoughts, comments around this topic? Hearing none. Oh, hold on, there's a chat. All right. Well, I've heard discussions on both sides. It is an action item for our meeting today. So would anybody want to motion to change the CSC committee meetings, excuse me, from monthly to every other month? Hearing none, except DC's dog.
That was
all right. I'm not hearing him.
Different dog. So I was going to say.
Hearing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
How about a motion to continue to leave it monthly for the rest of the year? That sounds like what most of the committee members were asking for.
Yeah, not hearing a motion to change it, so it would stay as is, that we would meet monthly. Is there anything else we have to legally do, Steve?
No, the motion just states, Stephanie, that the motion there was no motion, so the motion was the agenda item motion did not pass.
All right. So meetings will continue monthly, and all committee members are encouraged to come with ideas and give those ideas for agenda items moving forward. So we will now move on to the next agenda item with Michelle.
All right. And Steve, did you want to pull up that on the screen?
Let me try to get my screen up, and we'll move forward.
And so this discussion is actually just it kind of is it just evolved from what we were talking about, is the role of the Continuum of Care Committee. And so what the roles and responsibilities, the governance guidelines, and if hopefully you've all looked at it, but if not, Steve is going to pull it up in just a second. Okay. Okay, so before we talk about this, does anybody have any questions, or let's see, is it, okay, sorry, any questions? So we'll just look at, if everybody has it, the overview of the relationship to the COC. I'm just gonna, I know that we probably assume that everybody read it, but there's not, and you can see it, I'll just read it real quick. But The Continuum of Care Committee is a collaborative and cross-sector of stakeholders providing housing services to people experiencing homelessness in Maricopa County. The purpose of the committee is to leverage relationships and diverse expertise to actively advance the broad community goals of preventing and ending homelessness throughout the region. The committee will provide input and recommendations to the Continuum of Care Board and communicate to the community. So the committee is empowered to create ad hoc working groups and to achieve its purpose and goals. The committee will prioritize the work of the following: continuously improve program and system quality, promote education and training opportunities, inform the community planning efforts and decision making, and foster communication and collaboration. Does anybody have any comments? I think this is really what we were talking about. One of the things that I was thinking about, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, is I don't know if we can, I don't know if it's this of a action can be, but as this dialogue, and I was thinking back, is maybe we could create an ad hoc committee, because I remember, back a couple like Shayla and Ty and just different people in the past that I can think of right now, we had a really robust community committee, and maybe it's just having an ad hoc committee to really think of like, what can we do to bring that back and make these meetings more robust? We can have this open dialogue as well, but maybe we just have a separate ad hoc committee to look at this. I think I'm really excited about the energy of wanting to really make these meetings more impactful.
This is Craig. For my purposes, I would really like to know where the COC board is headed on certain things. I attend their meetings, and I frequently don't see any connective tissue between us and them. And I think that kind of knowing a month or two ahead of time what's in their work stream would be very helpful. And there will be times, hopefully, that we will have things that we will ask them to put into or we'll have an opinion on, and we will forward to them in some way or another. So I've always, and I know we have different we have a different committee description, but nevertheless, I've always sort of hoped that we could be a greater input provider to the board, because an awful lot of things hit the board and they're done deals by the time they hit there. And they don't have a very robust discussion oftentimes either. So anyway, that's all.
Well, Craig, I think that's really huge. And I think like the number one thing on here is the informed community planning efforts and decision making. And I mean, it isn't just MAG or MAG centric, I don't think, but I do think that it's really important. And I think a lot of the stuff that I agree. I feel like we've been sort of getting a lot of updates, and it's just been sort of kind of less impactful. And how can we really, like, how can we be more in line with what is the agenda that's happening on the board, and how can we bring more things to the board level and really have making strategic decisions and bringing up what's actually happening in this community and how we can have more influence on the homelessness sector and ending homelessness in our community.
Just my 2 cents. I mean, looking at number 1, continuously improve program and system quality. It seems like it's been a while since we've received reports from the data subcommittee on how the community is doing. And I would really like to have conversations about how we can improve the system and the quality of the performance, which really goes into the HUD application, which we know is kind of on hold, which I think is why this group is kind of struggling, because usually this is the time of year where everybody's focused on grant writing. But we've never gotten to a point as a community to really talk about how we're going to improve programs in the community in order to improve our system quality, in order for our continuum to score better. And I would like that to become more of a forefront than an afterthought.
This is Aaron from City of Mesa again. Just an observation. I think 2020 has been, if not strange, beyond bizarre. And I think from my perspective, it seemed like we were working very strategically on moving forward. And when COVID hit, everything switched to more of a tactical response of trying to fill gaps that we really didn't know existed, and kind of, you know, just it was a mixed up world, and we switched to smaller scale stuff. But I do believe that we do need to move back to that strategic plan, that strategic level of like improving the community. But I do think we just kind of got stuck in the tactical, you know, changes that we had to make because of COVID. So now's a perfect time to start, you know, transitioning back to that strategic plan post COVID, you know, and current, you know, we're in a new world now. We got to do things differently.
Yep. And Marion's like, yep, I agree. So, and so what I'm thinking, and just, and maybe we put this on the agenda for the next meeting, is, you know, 1 through 4, you know, what does that look like? How do we move forward? Because that is true. We don't have the updates from the data subcommittee and the other committees are very important, and where are they at?
So this is Nikki Ramirez from Chicanos por la Causa. Michelle, was your original suggestion to possibly start an ad hoc committee around evaluating the role itself? Because as I'm reading through it, it does seem like maybe it could be updated. And it looks like and so my original question actually was going to be, are there parts that have already been updated, or are we looking at something that's not been changed in months? Going into the next, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's not delay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say in the next section around meetings, it looks like it might have been already updated. So I was wondering if there were other updates, or if this was just old and had not been updated in a while.
I would guess that maybe hasn't been updated in a little bit. I mean, I think that what we could maybe do is do it ad hocs on the 1 through 4 to look at and just bring to what we've done in the past, and see what's done and suggestions moving forward, then bring it back to the committee and then build upon that. And I know that I also, Wendy talked about the city plan, and you know, that's an interesting thing too, is you know, to look at what the city, but then you have the city of Tempe, and you have, you know, other cities as well, but where are we in the city plans as well? And it's 2 different items, but I do believe that those 1 through 4, it's not on there anymore, is to look at what we've done in the past, look at best practices going forward, and how we can, you know, really implement that and strengthen it.
Hi, this is Steve from MAG COC. Just to your point, what we're looking at, which you're not looking at now, but what I included in the packet, this is the most updated governance structure approved in 2019. So that's directly from, you know, our current structure for the committee. And this is directly excerpted from that. So it's current.
This is Wendy again. So I work in realities. A meeting to discuss meeting topics doesn't thrill me. So here's a great example from what we've learned this summer. One is that we know every year that from May to September, it's hot. And because of COVID, a lot of the heat relief shelters didn't open. There was an overwhelming amount of transient death this summer. We are 3 times almost what we were last year at this same point. And so that to me is something we as a community should be on our minds of, we know summer comes every year. So what are we doing? Because MAG was put in the position with the heat relief initiative of every place shut down. We should have plans ready. We should have emergency communication systems for another global pandemic. You know, I mean, how do we communicate between us on how we're dealing with this stuff? And so I think there's some real boots on the ground kind of work we could be doing that would prevent us repeating some of the mistakes we might have made as individual groups this year in the learning curve. Let's get a group of people to talk about, you know, let's have an ad hoc and talk about what best practices we learned through this COVID stuff that could apply to another issue, even if it's, you know, an earthquake. You know, how do we respond? Because we all were working without a net, and yet we all knew we were all working without a net. And we could really start developing some best practices for the Valley out of our experiences this year. And for me, it's a catalyst to be more actionable with what we take to the MAG board, what we take to the cities, and what we take to the state that says, you know, we're working our butts off, boots on the ground, working our tails off. And, you know, we can't take another committee every time, or a new perspective on homelessness every time there's a political change in government. We have to be informing that so that we can have a continuum of care. And I'm not seeing that from my perspective. And granted, I'm as new as Stephen, so please know that I'm coming at this with a strong bias of what I thought would happen and what is happening. And I realize COVID derailed that. But for us to not be discussing issues we know that are that important is really not the highest and best use of our talent and time.
Very, very valid points, Wendy. And again, I just want to bring it back is this committee of care is a committee and everybody's voice is important. So it's a unified responsibility for everybody to say, okay, we need to address this, we need to talk about this. And then when we have those future agenda items or whatever, let's address this, let's talk about this. Because it's never good to put it into a couple individuals. It's a whole community and everybody sees, you know, Wendy, your points are very, very valid. And to bring them up and say, okay, maybe somebody else wasn't aware of that. And so that's where we just have to continue to work together as a community. And I really, this conversation, within the last 5 months has been the best since I can recall. So I appreciate that. And if any other feedback.
Hi, this is Steve. I'll provide some feedback from Mag. I agree what you're saying, Wendy. I think what we've been looking at, particularly with this committee and, you know, all our work groups and board level since I've been on board, is to really look at things in a global perspective. It is, in fact, a continuum, a regional continuum. So when we have these settings of groups, particularly, again, at this level and at the board level, is to think globally. As you pointed out, Wendy, it's about moving the system forward, looking at challenges to the system, looking for areas of impact within the system, all to end homelessness for all the people that, you know, I've been honored to serve over my career and continue to serve at a different level right now. So that's what it's about. It's not about, you know, particular agency needs, but sometimes that comes into the conversation, I understand, but it really is looking at system, looking at a global perspective. We are charged in this committee to have like that 30,000 foot perspective and figure ways to bring that down into our work groups and to infuse all our wonderful people that are doing this work on the ground level. So I just wanted to agree with what you were saying, Wendy. That's a perfect idea of looking what this committee's work can be moving forward, and really looking at those 4 major goals of the committee and figuring out how do we get there.
Hi, this is DC with Phoenix Fire. So I'm also on the Domestic Violence MAG committee, and one of the things that they consistently look at is creating a best practices document that goes across all of Maricopa County, obviously. Does this committee already have something like that that I can review? And is it on the website? Should I be looking at the website? I apologize. I'm new too, and I'm just getting active with the committee after everything else has calmed down with COVID.
This is Stephanie. There was, Shayla might know too, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we started on a best practices document. And that's actually something when you were talking, Laura, that made me think of it as I read in the governance about a best practices document. And I thought, wow, I don't think we've touched that for a while. So there is something out there, but to my knowledge, it hasn't been updated for quite a while. And I'm sure it would definitely need some updating compared to the last time I know that I was personally involved in working on that document.
Just to piggyback on what Wendy, I'm sorry, this is DC again. To piggyback on what Wendy was saying, I think that if you are looking at that larger picture and you're creating that best practices, you have the opportunity, like, and again, just from taking from my experience on the domestic violence, is they actually did like subcommittees where they reached out to the individuals doing the work in the field and started looking at what are the best practices, and everybody basically got kind of a say in the development of that from the line workers up. And I feel like that, considering COVID and again, what's the next crisis that's going to come along, developing something like that might be an effective use of this committee.
I think what we had was we were working on something for singles, something for families. I think rapid rehousing had their own, and shelter might have had their own. I'm speaking to Shayla because I know she's been doing this work a long time too. Or
can you hear me?
Laura, or yeah.
Am I muted?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we actually, it wasn't that long ago that we revisited those documents. What happened was there were best practices, and then they got changed to like standards of excellence. I mean, I think there was a lot of weird concerns about like people being held accountable to certain standards, which I think is just like, we got to get past that and really understand like best practices. And we had different committees. It wasn't like families, it was like emergency shelter and housing. And then there was also like, so the housing was all housing, and then there were some best practices for rapid rehousing and for permanent supportive housing. And those do exist, and I really do think there would be an opportunity to revisit them. And just to speak to what you were saying, DC, absolutely had committees that were doing those where the providers were involved in them. And I think it would be an excellent thing to start looking at that. And I think this also pivots back to Laura's comments about the data and looking at that and continuously looking at our system and how we're improving and how we can do better. So I think that that's a really good place to start. And those documents absolutely exist. And I don't know where we can pull them out of, but we can definitely find them and should, and that would be a great opportunity. And one other thing I want to add is I think the frontline staff need to be included, but also I think we've got to figure out how to include people with experience better, and maybe that could be in a future agenda item as well.
I didn't hear what you said, Shayla. I'm sorry. The last couple sentences.
Oh, that in addition to what you're saying about frontline staff being included, I think we really have to figure out how to better include people with lived experience in some of those conversations, but also in this group, and maybe that can be a future agenda item talking about how we can better incorporate people with lived experience in a really meaningful way.
Yeah, I think that this has been a really great, discussion, and then for future agenda items, we can add that, and I think a couple other suggestions as well. We've had COVID. There's a lot of new council members. There's new, new staff and different things, and so I think it's good to just go back and, maybe look at like the last year, in minutes, or the last things to look at, maybe things that had been in place that have been very good that maybe we've just dropped off, or we have, we could configure that and start that again. So I think it's a very good discussion, and it's very impactful. So thanks everybody for the open dialogue. And Craig, are you talking, or you're on mute, Craig, unless he's.
Sorry, I just want to add one thing, which is that there are a lot of prevailing orthodoxies in the homeless business. I get in trouble when I say this, by the way, that are being challenged across the board because things are not necessarily succeeding. And it isn't just about more resources. Sometimes it's about some of the policies. And I think our committee is an ideal place to really have that, back to the prior thing, have a robust discussion about certain policies that are ingrained and forced by the NOFA in many cases, but are worth challenging. And at our committee level, we can do that a little more safely than at the board, where the CEOs are also concerned about getting funding for their programs and have to be a little more diplomatic in what they say. I guess, anyway, that's all. I'm done.
Does anybody, this is not on, excuse me, it's not on an agenda for action. So does anybody else have any other comment, or we can move on?
This is Steve again from the COC bag. I love this discussion. As been in this field forever. I just love having these impactful discussions, and for all of us to realize, I think, and we realize it at the COC, there's what I call the little COC. That's like the programs that we fund, that are funded, all the agencies that are partnered with us. And then there's the larger COC, which is policy, moving a system forward, impacting the lives of folks, not only in Maricopa County, but through Arizona and maybe even nationally. So there's two things that any COC is charged to do, which is really looking at data, folks coming into the system, what our programs that are being funded are doing through best practices, perhaps. And then there's that larger policy direction, influencing how homeless services and folks move through the system to end their experience of homelessness, both on a regional, state, and national perspective. So I think if we could put the context into what this committee is about, I think there are both things, and I'm hearing that from all of you, so I appreciate that so much.
Steve, and maybe this could be a action item for future, so I don't want to, the bylaws, I don't want to cross any bounds, but I do feel like I would like to have a separate ad hoc group to go over the four, to go back and to look at like what we've done before and just like how we can improve and more going forward, just a little bit of that in that research, and then bringing it back to the team to build on it. I don't know if that has to be, I don't think it has to be an action item, does it?
No, what would happen, I'm sorry, this is Steve from MAG COC. What would happen, we would send out a general email to this group, ask for volunteers to establish an ad hoc committee to look at, past committee activities and to focus on those four goals that were set out in the governance structure and move on from there. So that's what we would do.
I would just like to encourage, when that email goes out, I would love volunteers to really help. I would be appreciative, because again, I truly mean that each and every one of us have experiences in it. So to be able to bring the powers of everybody to one, it just makes us that much stronger. So I would love I'd love a large ad hoc committee. So, right. So if everybody's okay, we'll just move on from that. Comments. Okay. All right, so we will now go on with Stephanie, which is the racial equity work group, the next agenda item.
So next, Julie Montoya from Maricopa Regional COC MAG we'll update the committee on the racial equity work our consultants, racial equity partners has been doing.
Hi, thank you so much, Stephanie. I am very happy to hear this conversation from you all as we move into our implementation phase of the racial equity work. As you all know, the Racial Equity Initiative was set as a priority from the COC board. And so I'm excited to hear you all, state that you want to work, on more actionable steps. And this is something that, moving forward, probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks, that we were planning on and contacting you all and the rest of our committees and work group partners to begin actually working on some of the steps based on our strategy plan. So, about a month and a half ago, we had 3 strategy sessions with our community members. A lot of you attended and participated in that, and we identified 4 priorities that we would like to focus on initially, where we feel like we can have the most impact. Those 4 areas are coordinated entry, lived experience. So Shayla, thank you for stating what you stated as well. We also feel like we need to bring in people that are experiencing homelessness in these conversations, that it directly impacts, where they are and where we're hoping that, we can get them into housing. So we also feel like, lived experience is a priority with our racial equity work. Data is also one that we believe will help us and guide us in making better policy decisions moving forward. And then the last one is workforce training and bringing our community members, because that's something that we heard a lot from the community, that, they felt that they needed more training on this topic and how to take this back to their organizations and make it a priority within their organizations as well. So those are the 4 priority areas. Of course, there were other areas and topics that got brought up. We feel like those are more long-term focuses, but these were the 4 that we decided on where we can make the most impact. We also did sign an extension with our consultants at Racial Equity Partners to work with them continuing until at least March to help support us in working through this, through the implementation strategy. So we're really excited. We think that this is important work. We have a planning committee that will be working on just the kind of the logistics and has been working on the logistics, but we want the community and all of you to be involved in the actual implementation. And as you all have mentioned, this is system work. This is where we can be impactful as well, is, making policies that don't cause disparities in our homeless system services. So I think that's all of my update. Is there any questions?
Yeah, Julie, real quick, Joanne with the Salvation Army. Can you expand on the 4th kind of point, workforce development, how that came into fruition as part of the racial equity focus areas? Just interested in knowing.
Yeah, some of the conversation was, not even understanding exactly what racial equity means. We hear a lot about diversity, and there's a lot more to having racial equity than just diversity. So there was a lot of conversation around that. And then, kind of like what I mentioned from higher level CEOs and directors, that, they didn't know how to take this back to their organizations and make an impact on staffing and their own policies that they have. So, we've talked with Jeff Olivet and Donald Whitehead about some kind of maybe like a collaborative, I'm trying to think of the word, but, kind of this training program that we can have for our organizations, and of course, anybody who is interested. But, all of that is to be determined, but that's kind of where that came from.
Thank you.
So that would be workforce development for services staff, not for clients.
Yeah, it's more specific to the workforce. but it doesn't mean that it couldn't expand later on.
Any other questions or comments for Julie? All right, well, thank you for the update, Julie. This is not on the agenda for action, so we'll move on to Michelle with the next agenda item.
All right, so we're on number 7, the community care work groups. Sarah Kent will provide an update on the COC work groups and activities. So I will pass it over to Sarah.
Great. Good morning, members of the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Committee. As many of you know, I'm Sarah Kent, and I facilitate the work groups around ending homelessness for the COC. The COC work groups continue to be a repository for conversation and information exchange to find solutions around ending homelessness in the region. Aside from the COVID-19 updates and providers developing shared best practices, all the work groups continue to do HMIS data dives while looking at the community solutions built for Zero dashboard for each subpopulation. HMIS, a crisis response network, continue to also provide all the work groups with data on COVID-19 assessment that providers are encouraged to utilize with their clients. I'll now give a brief update on all the work groups and specific items that are being worked on aside from what I just mentioned. So in our last Ending Youth Homelessness work group, which is held on the last Tuesday of the month from 2 to 3:30. We have been doing brainstorming exercises on what gaps the providers are seeing the most of in the youth homelessness system. From there, the group is coming up with change ideas in order to decrease the number of youth returning to homelessness from housing. Other gaps that have been addressed are the need for a better relationship with the criminal justice system, as well as McKinney-Vento liaisons and the school system in general. The need for a better relationship with the criminal justice system is not only to share data, but to help youth who are incarcerated to get help with housing before they're released. A continuous agenda item is always how the family unification vouchers can be better utilized. The housing authorities and the Department of Child Safety are working on developing a transparent partnership to streamline the approach so that ultimately the vouchers get utilized more efficiently. So stay tuned on how that is coming. Next, the Ending Veteran Homelessness Work Group has been meeting twice a month, but will now be hosted once a month in order to make sure that the meetings are valuable to all the attendees and to reduce redundancies. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, November 3rd from 11 a.m. to 12:30 and will be held the first Tuesday of every month thereafter. The ongoing goal of the COC Ending Veteran Homelessness Work Group is to achieve 50% reduction on the by name list. Tamara Wright from Community Solutions team is a constant fixture at all the veteran work group meetings. Tamara has led a Built for Zero commitments discussion the last couple of meetings to ensure that leaders of the veteran homelessness system are all on the same page as to how we're moving forward. The VA has recently announced that they have pulled out of HMIS and regularly gives updates to providers on how the transition is going. SSVF, or Supportive Services for Veteran Families, they're a great partner at the meetings and they always give updates on how providers can access the new available funding. Next, the Outreach Collaborative meets on the first Thursday of every month from 11 to 12:30. At the last meeting, I gave a 2020 point in time count presentation that you all saw at our last committee meeting. On the 2020 data, the work group also discussed 2021 point in time count and the fact that HUD has not rolled out official guidance as of yet, but has mentioned that it will look much different in 2021 due to COVID-19 and adhering to CDC guidance. I opened it up to the group and I asked them how they felt about the 2021 PIT count, and there was a lot of mixed opinions. Some outreach teams thought that as long as there are not any volunteers involved, that regular PIT outreach efforts should be fine because a lot of the outreach teams are business as usual as far as their outreach efforts at the moment. Other outreach teams thought it would be best to skip this year as HUD only requires the PIT count to be every other year. The Outreach Collaborative is also working on a gaps exercise and has identified that finding immediate shelter is very hard, if not impossible, and finding transportation for folks experiencing homelessness is still an issue for some outreach teams. Next, the Ending Family Homelessness Work Group meets the second Thursday of every month from 10 to 11:30 a.m. The work group is working on change ideas to keep families housed who are new to the system. The work group has also identified the need to focus on workforce development so that families can focus on what is next and how to keep themselves financially sustained. The Ending Chronic Homelessness Work Group meets on the third Tuesday of every month from 1 to 2:30. The work group is working on a change idea to have better coordination with hospitals at the moment. We ensure that all the COC work groups are kept up to the latest HUD and CDC guidance. The last portion of all the work groups is to give agencies the opportunity to share updates and ask questions of each other for deeper collaboration with all the other partners in the meeting. And that's my update on the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care work groups around ending homelessness. I appreciate everybody's time today. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. I was in the future, one of the things, I'm just a really visual person. Do you think it would be possible to just put up some like a PowerPoint or something with the basic facts and what they've talked about?
Yeah, some points. Yes, I can absolutely do that.
I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
Sarah, I was just going to ask, is the point in time data that you presented on the Continuum of Care website? Because I missed that meeting. Thank you.
Yes, it absolutely is. Yep. And we've got like a really nice report on the website as well. Kind of breaks it down. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry. So if you have any, it's not for agenda action items. So if it doesn't have anything else, we'll just move on to Stephanie. Sorry about my voice.
Okay, next is number 8, request for future agenda items. Do any committee members have any action or discussion items for next month's meeting?
Is this in addition to all of the things that were mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I think we'll have to go back and put that on. Just kind of like what we mentioned. I guess one thing that is an update from the ad hoc committee that Steve's going to be sending out an email for, and that we're going to have a lot of volunteers on that one. Okay. And then I think, I don't know if I don't even know if it needs to be an action item, but just maybe, I know we talked about the weekly community reports that Meg was gonna work at. So we're gonna bring ideas on what is gonna be on those reports.
And with Julie and Sarah's reports out on the different work groups, we could include data subcommittee. I heard that a few times today to make sure that data subcommittee recap is in those as well.
And maybe just, and I don't know, I know that the pitch, I don't know if it's maybe not next meeting, but the prior or something, just to update on the pit and what to expect and when the dates are and things like that. Okay, yep.
I would add to that pit discussion in the next agenda item, perhaps this committee could provide guidance about what kind of approach the COC should take. Is it something that the COC and the system feels like is possible and doable and necessary or not? Really have a discussion around that.
And then I know that it was Wendy, and this is really a great point, and it was on a chat, is maybe we have somebody from the city of Phoenix come and just talk about their Phoenix homelessness plan. And then
if that's something we want, we could probably ask Michelle Blau.
Mm-hmm.
They are, just for your information, for your information, they're planning at this point on taking it up on, I think it's October 27th. So, I don't know if they will. There's some talk of possibly delaying it because they've got thousands of inputs, but certainly this committee ought to be able to weigh in on it somehow, and I don't quite know how to make that happen.
Yeah, I know that the city of Phoenix is they want to be, you know, a good partner. They want to have that feedback and things like that. So I think it's an important piece, but yeah, I'm not sure how that would look.
I don't know if these got on there, and also like if they could be on future agendas if we can't fit everything. But the two things that I'd mentioned before was one, I'd really like to look at, and I know Julie, you mentioned that you're working on this too, but I'd really like to have a meaningful conversation about how to include people with lived experience on this committee. And then also, as I mentioned, I think we need to figure out a way. I know you said everybody's welcome, but I think that the audience can't participate in these meetings because I don't think they have the same setup. So a way to be able to get input and feedback from members of the audience in some way that won't be just crazy and like not allow us to have a meeting.
I didn't realize that, so thanks for pointing that out. So they can't come to this meeting. Yeah,
I think they can hear it, but I don't think that they can participate.
Really?
Yeah, they could, members of the community could view on YouTube. This Zoom channel is just for committee members, and that's the way it was set up. It's just due to open meeting law and regulations, and that, you know, and Chella, you might understand this. It's kind of the MAG process that we have to do it this way. I mean, it is unfortunate. We are in this virtual meeting reality right now. I understand in the past that community members could come to your meetings, right? And participate during the course of the meeting if I'm not understanding. So I will work to follow that up a little more to see if we can't do anything, but I'll say right now that open meeting law requires this format right now, the way we're doing things.
Yeah, and I certainly think we need to have a public meeting. I just wonder if there's a way that people can provide input.
Yeah, and again, as it stands now, the way we do it is people can respond actually right up to like an hour before the meeting, and then we respond that way. But again, you know, I'll look into see if there's any resolution around that, just to let you know, and we'll talk about it.
Hey, Steve, just a question. If I were to say the hotel we have, we're using as a shelter in Mesa, if I were to invite people that were there that wanted to come participate, if I were to set up there, my Zoom there, and they were to kind of participate with me in the same room, would that be copacetic with the MAG rules on the meeting?
That is a great question, Aaron. If they're coming, yeah, I will look into that. Meaning they would be on your.
I'd be happy to do something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Invite several of my friends that are there that have lived experience, and you know, get their input as well.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll go into our lived experience, you know, talk for next time. But I'll look into that, Aaron. Thank you.
Hi, this is Stephanie with HSC. Do we have any members of the committee who have lived experiences themselves with homelessness? I do, for one. I just didn't know if anybody else did.
I do.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to see if we could also include our voices too, along with the ones who are currently experiencing homelessness.
Hi, this is Anne Marie. Sorry, this is Anne Marie with Community Bridges. I also have lived experience.
Yeah, I think we have a good wealth of knowledge on this committee as well with that. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and if I can just pipe in, this is Julie with the COC. You know, one of the priorities is the lived experience, and one of the things that we were going to look at is what's, the best way to pull together some kind of an advisory subcommittee for people that have lived experience. And so, those of you who think you might be interested in kind of sharing how you think to approach that would be really, really helpful. Because the last thing we want to do is tokenize anybody and, just have people on there just to have people on there. We want we want people to actually have a voice.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. This is Steve from we are, in the planning stages of that, actually making a lived experience, a group subcommittee as part of the COC, comprised of folks with lived experience. So any input on that or help would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, so items I have for next agenda, probably forgot something. Have a discussion about the 2021 point in time count. We want to make sure that data subcommittee updates are included in the work group updates that are given by Julie and Sarah. Report out on ad hoc committee that's going to go over the governance, just whatever work they've done so far by next meeting. We will ask for if we can get an update on the city's homelessness plan. And then Steve is going to give an update about how we can make sure that we're getting input from audience. And then have a discussion about how we can include people with lived experience into our conversations. So it's going to be a pretty heavy agenda. So I think it's important too that people come prepared to the meeting, that you've read the minutes, and that you come with your ideas and input, of course, to make sure that we continue to have these productive conversations. Did I miss anything? Good. Okay. And then Laura made a comment. She recommends those with lived experience on this committee chair the advisory committee. Good suggestion, Laura. Okay. On a very happy note, protocol for open meetings do not require a motion to adjourn. So we don't have to have a motion second and do a roll call to adjourn the meeting. So our COC committee meeting for October is now adjourned. And thank you all for being here and participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doing
Thanks,
everything
everyone.
you do.
Have a good
Have
one.
a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.